FPK, Future-Proof Knowledge Podcast. Mind unlocked. With every episode we cast. Real talk, real tools, wisdom on the fly. Tune in, geek out, reach for the sky. FPK, Future-Proof Knowledge Podcast.
I have to admit, I do love that intro. Well done, Jashon, for creating that. It just gets me all set to go every single week.
Hey, that's not me. That's that awesome AI Night Owl band.
Yeah. Where can people find out more about the AI Night Owl band, Jashon?
Right here on our Future Proof Knowledge Podcast website, we have a playlist with a radio player, and they can sit back, enjoy whatever they're doing, and listen to the AI Night Owl tracks. I think there's about 12 to 15 of them.
All right, I'm going to link that and stick that into the chat.
And you're looking awfully chipper today there, Al.
Thanks very much. I didn't get much sleep last night, but I've had a couple of good meetings today. So I'm happy with where things are at with that. So I'm not going to complain. How's your day been going so far, even though it is pretty early over there?
Day, night, I don't ever know. I've been putting in the hours trying to get work done, but beautiful day out right now. Nice weather here in Seaside, Oregon. Beautiful blue skies. Hopefully after this podcast, I might take a trip down and go look at some waves.
You can't beat looking at waves, can you? Well, you like getting on the waves. I've done that a few times. I'm not very good, and I'm going to admit I'm not very elegant either. The last time I did it was a few years ago, and me and my family, we were over in Sligo in the west coast of Ireland. It's well known for its waves, and we went for a lesson, the four of us, and needless to say, my kids got it like that. My wife got it relatively quickly. I was like a beached whale that just like my balance was.
Well, there's always basket weaving.
Yeah, well, maybe we've got a world-renowned future basket weaver right here, and we don't even know it. I'll leave the surfing to you. But anyway, yeah. So this week, Jashon, we are going to talk a bit about how our personal experiences have led us to developing future-proof knowledge as an ongoing kind of, I suppose, business now, really. But I thought it'd be good for people to understand the real kind of drivers behind it, because I know we've mentioned things in over the previous episodes, but I thought it'd be good to kind of give a bit more in-depth look at it, and I suppose try and show people that this isn't that this is more than just trying to build a business, if that makes sense. So I suppose we'll come to you first. Oh, and Caitlin's saying it's a catchy intro. Thank you very much, Caitlin. We appreciate that. So talk to us a bit more in depth about your experience of having a neurodiverse child. When did things first kind of become apparent that there was that your child was different to what maybe the typical expectations might have been for a parent, and then I'll kind of come back with my experience. So off you go. And before you start, share what you're comfortable sharing.
Well, Alan, you know me, I'm very transparent. I'm very comfortable sharing everything. So for us, it was pretty typical on timelines that you hear once you get involved in hearing about diagnosis and stuff. So around 12 to 15 months, just watching my son play around. He had his own playroom. of course, new dad, first time dad. He had everything that I wanted and everything that his mom wanted, and just tons of stuff. So he had his own playroom. But I noticed when we would enter his playroom to go interact with him, he would kind of guide us out of the room. He didn't want us in there. And didn't think anything of it because not knowing about different neurodiversities and signs and stuff, it just kind of flew under the radar. At the same time, there was a lot of commercials coming on from Autism Speaks, and it was talking about different signs, things you see. Does your child make eye contact? Does your child keep to themselves? And they would just highlight these different key signs. And the commercials, see the commercial 4 or 5 times a day, and I'm looking at my son running around the background, and the first couple months noticing the commercials, I didn't correlate anything. But then I started listening to the commercial a little bit deeper while I see my son in the background doing his thing, and it made me start thinking like, well, wait a minute, he is exhibiting some of these traits. So we were fortunate enough to where we had some pretty good friends around us at the time, and we met with a particular family friend every week. We would go and have dinner with him and his wife, and just talk and just have a good time. This went on for several months, and finally one night at dinner I said, hey, Dr. Long, I said, what's going on? He's a doctor, so I was referred to him as that. So I'm like, hey, Dr. Long, I want to ask you a question. I've been seeing these commercials. Started giving him the spiel about the Autism Speak, and I didn't even get all the way through the conversation, and he reached in his shirt pocket and he pulled out a business card. The previous dinner we had with each other, he had a friend we were in Houston, he had a friend from Dallas come down, and I didn't know what her background was, but she was a clinical psychologist and dealt with kids with neurodiversities and things like that. After our dinner, she had a conversation with him. Hey, your friend, their son might have autism. You might want to talk to him and get it checked out. So that actually happened about 3 or 4 weeks before he pulled out the business card. He said he kept that business card in his pocket, and he's had friends previously, a friend previously that he approached and said, hey, I think your child may have some learning difficulties in this and that friend was offended.
Wow.
And never talked to him anymore, and like broke the friendship, and they were friends for like several years.
Wow.
So he was really hesitant to approach me, but he was very cognizant that he thought there would be the time. So he kept that business card. Every time we came to dinner, he pulled it off his nightstand, stuck it in his shirt. That night I started to bring it up. He pulled out the business card. He goes, such and such, who had dinner with us, identified it. Here's a business card. Call this person. They already know you'll be giving them a call. It's someone who will do the evaluation. We were like, whoa, wow.
Wow.
That's amazing.
That's
so
unbelievable.
for us, we were very fortunate. Yeah. So we were very fortunate. So it played out perfectly. But that's where the first signs of difficulty, not with finding out that he had a possible neurological diversity, it pointed to the sign of parents not being able to understand the documents and what the doctors are saying at that stage. You're a new parent, you don't know nothing about this. You go get a diagnosis, it takes 4 to 5 months to get a response back, and it's this long document, 60, 80 pages, doctors' written notes and all these terms and numbers, and really no explanation behind it. Just your son has autism at this level. Now you need to go do stuff.
Wow.
Parent, that's great. But how do you decipher all that information? What do you do with it? So that was kind of the start for us, where we learned the diagnosis. We first saw the signs of it. We talked to a friend. He assured us that that was probably the right choice. He directed us in the right direction to get the evaluation. And then once the evaluation came back is where the real problem started. The autism has never been a problem. The problem's been with the paperwork and the communication. Thus, once you and I started discussing this project in its infancy stage, it slowly grew into what we have now, and it is directly to support families like myself and other families to kind of have a way to handle all this information and make sense of it.
Yeah. And like, I think that's really important for people to maybe hear, you know, because I can imagine it, the realization and that whole process might have, could be quite worrying for some parents in that situation. Not about, like you said, not about the actual autism as such, but the processes that you have to go through in order to get the supports and understand how you can support as a parent, and especially as a new parent. Like, you know, second child comes along and you're like throwing them around the place and yeah, they're going to be fine. First one comes around and you're like, how do I keep this thing alive? You know? So I'd say it could be quite, not necessarily frightening, maybe, but challenging for some parents entering into that sphere of, you know, doctors and appointments and, you know, and then dealing with the challenges that do present themselves as they go along.
Yeah, and like I said, so the confirmation of the diagnosis, I mean, every parent, every family is going to take it differently. When I got the confirmation and went back to Dr. Long and said, "Yep, it, that's exactly what it was," he wasn't sure how our response was going to be. You know, some people might just be distraught, "It's my fault," crying and upset. Um, Mine, this is type of person I am. It was, "Oh, I know, great, now I know. What do we do next?" I mean,
Mhm.
ain't you can't cry over spilled milk. So, and maybe a bad term, because is that spilled milk? It's not. It's just he's just wired differently. So,
Yeah.
he's kind of like a Linux operating system where everybody else is running on Windows.
What
He's
a
a little more
great
complicated.
way to describe it. Love it.
You know, everyone's scared to go over and jump on Linux when they're on Windows or Apple because it's a little more complicated. Well, there you go. There's autism. Welcome to the world of Linux. Um, so yeah, so everyone's response is going to be different. Mine was, "Oh, cool. At least I know. Now it's something identifiable. Now it's something that I can put some focus on, and I know which direction to go." But little did I know at that time that that stack of paperwork that looked like a Bible that got thrown at me from the diagnosis was just the start. Um, Now that you have your diagnosis and then you have school coming up, now you got to deal with the school and the special education process. Now you're looking at IEPs, BIPs, behavioral intervention plans, and functional behavior plans, and all these other things. So you have your diagnosis document, 80 plus pages. Then you have your first meeting with the school. You got a stack of 60, 70 pages. And the school doesn't quite, even though they say they do, they don't understand all the stuff that's in that diagnosis paperwork from the doctor because they're not medical professionals. They're there for
Mhm.
education. So they have their own reports and all these other assessments. By the end of the first year, you're left with a stack of paperwork, literally, like, no joke,
Excuse me.
at least 1,000 pages, if not up to 30,000
Wow.
pages of paperwork. And there's applications you got to fill out that it's just insane. So the hardest part of the autism diagnosis for us wasn't the diagnosis itself, it was the procedural and the paperwork and the assessments behind it. So fragmented, so scattered. The doctor has his assessments, the school has theirs, and now you've been pointed into what type of therapies are you going to do? Are you going to do ABA therapy? Are you going to have a occupational therapist, a speech
Mhm.
therapist, all these other therapists who have all their own assessments and all their own paperwork? Now, each assessment, let's say an OT, they have their assessment of your child and they have their ABCs. Here's what we're finding, here's what we're going to try to do, and here's what our goal is. That's one professional. You still have 12 other professionals with their assessments. And as a parent, you're supposed to take that assessment from OT and try to apply that to your child. Then you go to the next assessment from speech and try to apply that to your child. Speech doesn't know what OT is doing. OT doesn't know what your doctor's doing. Your doctor doesn't know what your educator's doing. And you're left with this heap of paperwork trying to orchestrate everything. It's just it's a bigger headache than any of the diagnosis that a family can get. So how do we tackle that? How do we fix that? Well, we can do it like we did, or like we've been doing, stacks of paperwork that get lost, and kids play with them, coffee stains, and then your next doctor says, I need a copy of this, and you're searching through piles and piles of files, and stuff is lost and ink's rubbed off, so you're in a mess. What do? Well, you know me, Alan. We come up with FPX. We centralize all this into one centralized platform so that all your documents are in one place. You don't have to do the thinking. Let AI help you find the loopholes and all the data. Put it in one summary that all the doctors, all the therapists, all the educators can all see and all be on the same page. So you're not running around with fragmented information, having one therapist trying to treat your child at this level while the other therapist is treating at this level, because they don't know that your child's already advanced, because they're waiting for a report to come back from you that might take 5 or 6 weeks because no one can communicate together because of HIPAA and every other regulation. So for us, for me, FPX was a way to say, screw all you people. I'm centralizing my data. I'm in control of it. I have the authority to say who looks at it, and I want you all to look at this single source of truth, and this is what we're working from.
And so we haven't put the FPX out into the world yet, but you've been using it for a while now. And what are the differences you're noticing in terms of anything? Like, are you seeing any improvement in the pace of getting things through, or the understanding from the different people involved in working with your son and supporting you with your son? Like, is there improvements coming?
There's definitely improvements coming in the data tracking, and there's improvements coming in the predictive analysis, and also identifying the patterns. I don't know if I said that already. That is really helping. But one highlight, so we're at the beginning of the school year now, about a month or so in IEP season. So we recently had our IEP a couple weeks ago. I have the IEP in my inbox waiting to be signed. So like we've done with all of our previous IEPs, I got the IEP, kind of scroll through, looking for everything, verifying everything. And to me, at first glance, and I'm pretty detailed, I read through the whole thing, it looked like it was ready to sign. So in the past, I would have just signed it and put it in. But I've got FPX on my side. So I uploaded it into the software. I said, this is an IEP. Review it. Let me know what you think. Within seconds, it came back and said, this is an excellent IEP, but here's some recommendations. There's this section and this section that state a goal, but it's not showing what the actionable items are to reach that goal. So it's missing that data. So you need to make sure you have that data in the IEP so that we have a goal to match with the identified struggle, or we have a way to reach the goal, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one thing. Another thing was it highlighted that there wasn't enough focus on education. Everything was more therapeutic and focusing on his behavioral. And it said, it's very short. We're spending 80 to 90% of the time on therapeutic instead of on academic. So you need to change this in your IEP so you get more academic out of the day instead of so much of the therapeutic side of it. So the AI was able to quickly identify things that I scanned right over. And when I went back and looked at the document, it was correct. There was a space that had a antecedent, but then the other two sections that were supposed to be followed up weren't filled out.
Okay.
Easy mistake. And an IEP is a contract between you and the school. So if I sign that contract and then they're not doing that part, and I come back to them and say, hey, you're not doing this, and they hold up the contract, well, it wasn't in his IEP, then that's on me. So I was supposed to send in the IEP 2 weeks ago. I haven't sent it in. I've since went through it. and I'm sending in, instead of a signed IEP, a request of, we need to fill in these blanks, and I need an answer to why he's not getting enough interaction in PE, and why he's getting a pass on art. They like to pass them on art because they don't want to deal with his breakouts. So rather than introducing him into the environment, let's just skip that and go to something else. I want them to try every day to get him in art class involved. If he makes it 5 minutes, that's great. If he makes it 10 minutes, that's great. If they go in there, he has a breakdown, it only takes 2 or 3 minutes, and they've got to move to something else, that's fine, but they're skipping the process completely. And that's identified within the IEP. So my superpower right now is the FPX platform. We all think we're smart. We all think we can read really well and identify everything, but AI is just so much better at fill in the blanks and looking at the things that we're missing. And even from missing data in an IEP, just to finding certain metrics and numbers that human brains just can't really grasp. It's like finding triggers. Maybe before a transition, you need to go and take them over to the bean bag, because from looking at your antecedents here and there, this seems to be an area of struggle. So we can predictively avoid that if we do step A and B and then move to step C. And that's information that no educator, no OT, no speech therapist was ever able to give us as families direct as actionable things that we can do.
That's really powerful. And
yeah,
I remember, so, and we'll come to my story. So, and it's, what I love is that, FPK University and came from a need, in inverted commas, or an experience I had, and FPX has come from an experience that you've had, and how they're both working in tandem to kind of support all those young people in the middle, which is phenomenal. But even just having that support system in place, I could imagine for a lot of parents is going to be really powerful and reassuring, and helping them build their own confidence so that they can input the data, and obviously everything is compliant, but they can input the data and they can have their own read through. And it's not a replacement for us doing the work, but any parent with a child has to do the work anyway. So, but it is that extra pair of eyes that can pick up on the things that maybe we miss. So that's very, very powerful. So I suppose, like, are we putting a call out today for people who might want to test it out?
Hey, we could always use beta testers. I mean, just imagine this, Alan. So literally, my son's 12 years old now. We got his diagnosis at 18 months. So that is many, many years. It's almost 10 years of paperwork from multiple different ABA therapists. We've moved a couple times from states, and multiple different doctors in schools. If you ask me for any document right now, I know right where it's at. I can pick up my phone, I go to my FPX app, I go to my downloaded documents, and everything from all of my doctors everywhere is right there at my fingertips. I don't have to go dig in boxes, go up in the attic, find rat-bitten holes in papers and things like that. I was like, 12 years of paperwork.
That's a lot of paperwork.
That's a lot of paperwork. So, I mean, for me, that's the biggest benefit. And lots of times with this paperwork, there's 6 or 7 pages before the meat of the paperwork that most people don't read because there's no data there and it's just a bunch of verbiage. Well, I'm finding once that's in your system, that there's important information there, and that helps to build your overall profile of the person that you're tracking, and it helps you to be able to have this centralized place of paperwork. I have the FPX app now, and so if an educator wants to upload a document, they don't have to send it to me. They can upload it to the FPX app. It's there. If a doctor wants to upload something, they can upload it to the FPX app. It's there. All of his therapists can upload it to the app, and it's there. No one has to wait for the next person. There's no time delay waiting for this to come back from this person or answer from this person. But just having like 12 years worth of documents, and if you start on the system now, let's say you start on FPX, within the same time you get your first diagnosis, boom, doctor, I need all digital copies of everything. Just email me documents. Email those, upload them to your system, or just say, hey, doctor, go onto this site, upload all my documents right here. Boom, it's done. And you're getting insights from day one. I think the paper management system of FPX is just as important as all the therapists and everyone else you've got to see in the care for your child, because the paperwork is the foundation of what everybody's going to base their theories on. So the paperwork management in this system, I think, is as powerful as the diagnostics and everything else that it can do for you. Just because, just imagine it. And I'm not talking about neurodiverse people. This could be for a 65-year-old man who has a lot of doctor's appointments and stuff like that, or for a 50-year-old like me who might have dentist appointments and doctor's appointments and just daily living stuff. Track my own paperwork. Hell, it can go so far as to where you can throw in your dog's vet papers and just call it a category for pets. It's a document tracking and analysis, and it'll point to whatever you tell it to point to. It's amazing.
That is amazing.
I can't stop talking about it. I'll take
I
this
know
whole
you
conversation
can't.
just talking about details. So please carry on.
No, that's the thing. And, you know, for me, I think it's going to be a game changer when it gets into people's hands. And especially, like I said, not just people with neurodiversity, but also the general population. I was the doctor about 8 months ago, and he's a new doctor that I've got, and he was saying, "Oh, did you take such and such a medication?" And I was like, "I have no idea." Like years ago, I was like, "I have no idea," because I have no idea, and I wouldn't even know where to go to try and find out. Like where. Whereas if I was able to have all that information and have it all tracked in the one place, I could easily go do. Yep, took that medication in 2020 and took it for 6 weeks. There you go. Like that's so. It allows autonomy for people around their own medical and important information, and then that gives them that confidence having those conversations with doctors or dentists or insurance companies and stuff like that. You know what I mean? It's going to be really powerful for so many people out there. So, you know, even if we've got any listeners tuning in who don't have children with neurodiversity or don't have any neurodiversity themselves, they could use it if they wanted to, just to see how they get on with the medical, the pet, the whatever details. And I'll tell you, and this is like such a tiny little example of the importance of retaining documents in a very easy to use space. So I have to keep all my receipts for everything, right? And maybe I don't have to, but I do. I do keep my receipts because I learned the hard way. But something broke in our house. I can't remember what it was recently, only recently. And my wife was saying, I'm sure this is still within warranty. I'm sure we definitely have not gone out of warranty on this. And because I keep everything online, she was able to go, okay, I reckon it's round about here. And she was able to go search, boom, and there was the receipt uploaded. And it was like straight away onto the company, we're still within warranty. Here's the original receipt. They go, fine, we'll change it. So imagine you have that across the board. Like it's so powerful. So yeah, drop us an email and we'll get you moving on FPX.
And Alan, I'll tell you one of the most exciting things about it. Educators, therapists, ABA therapists, all these different people that will be working with your child are even if this isn't a situation for neurodiverse. Anybody who uses this app, the people that they're dealing with, that they're getting this information from, that they're putting into this app, it's not made for them. This isn't made for therapists. This isn't made for a doctor. This is made for parents. You control the keys. You create the account. You're the owner of the account. You're the admin of the account. You have all the control over everyone who sees the information and everyone you invite. If you are going to go see a new doctor, a new therapist, and they're going to be like, okay, so I'm going to need a bunch of information about your son, you go to do your first appointment, and you say, look, check your email. I just granted you access to everything about me or the person who I'm tracking with this app. I've just given you access. You don't have to call me for nothing. If you have a question, ask the app. It's going to tell you. If you can't find it there, then give me a call. It's going to answer 99% of the questions for that person. And the reason why it's parent-centered is so that we can get out of the pigeonhole of doctors being like, oh, I can't provide that information because of HIPAA. Or your therapist saying, I can't share that information with your doctor. I have to give it to you. So wait a couple of weeks till you get it, and then you can take it to your doctor. And by that time, maybe some behaviors have changed, because there's that lag in getting the documents from one person to the next. So this is parent-centered. You don't have to worry about approval. If you give someone access, you're saying you inherently are giving them permission to view these medical records and everything that's within this app. Now, when you give somebody access to view the information within the app, you can limit their restrictions. You can say, okay, you can look at data, but you can't upload and remove data. You could have a role where you can actually upload documents if you want them to upload. So you can set the ability of what the people who are accessing your platform, what they can do, but it's parent-centered. So you control it. No one can tell you what you can and can't do. No more of doctors saying, I can't share this information. They're sharing it with you directly, and you're choosing to share it with others by inviting them to your app. So that's one thing that I found in this journey over the last 12, almost 13 years is your doctors, your therapists, all these people you see, they always want to be in control of your information to protect themselves because of HIPAA and GDPR and things of that nature, but also that leaves them as a gatekeeper, and that keeps you having to come back to them. I want to put the power back in the parents' hands. You control your destiny for your child, how your child is cared for, and you can easily add or kick them sons of right off the app if you don't like what they're talking about.
Yeah, no, that's amazing, because that's the other thing. Like, if you do want to change, like if you want to change doctor, if you want to change therapist, you have to go and you have to request the information. You know what I mean? And if they go, well, you're leaving, I'm in no rush to send this information to you. Whereas if it's all in this one app, it's done.
It's already done.
It's already done. I suppose for me, and I don't know how much I've spoken about this, but obviously our situation was very different to yours. So my daughter has dyslexia, and we had no idea until one day the school rang when she was about probably 7, and they were like, could we have a meeting, please? We want to talk about some of the challenges your daughter's experiencing in school. We were like, what? Challenges? Because she'd come home from school, and she's, you know, she was a very happy child. So she'd come home from school and she was like, how's your day? Yeah, great. It's fantastic. And the school, like, so we went in for the meeting, and they were like, well, she gets upset at times. I'm like, what? And yeah, she can struggle with her reading and her spelling. Like honestly, we were totally blindsided. But we were, like you in one sense, we were very lucky. The school said, we want to get her assessed. And the school were in a position to get an assessment done. I think they paid for all of it or most of it. We just had to pay like a minuscule amount relative to the cost of what it would be. And they were able to fast track it. They had a psychologist. So we agreed, and off she went, had the educational psychologist meeting, and we got the assessment back pretty quick. And it said she had mild dyslexia, which would cause her to get anxious. And then sometimes when she get anxious, it would cause her dyslexia to kind of kick in. So again, like you, when we found out, it wasn't a case of, oh no, our poor child. It was like, okay, now we know. Now we can look at ways to support her. And luckily enough, I already had been working with empowering learning. So I don't know if I had been trained at that stage, but my dad had been trained at that stage. So I was helping him run programs. So I knew how to do the process. So I was able to work with my wife and my daughter, and we were able to, between us, help her with the dyslexia. But the challenges, I suppose, that she experienced, again, were less so with herself, but more so the reactions or the institutions and stuff like that. So now we were lucky we had a psychological assessment, so we could go back and say, look, she needs extra support, extra time. But that wouldn't always replicate itself in the secondary school, especially processes where, you know, she'd get marked down for misspelling or for grammar and stuff like that. And in fairness, her school were quite good at the time. And when we approached them, said, look, this is causing stress, unnecessary stress. So they were able to go and speak to the teachers and say, right, look, you need to not mark her down based on her spelling and stuff like that because of the diagnosis. So the whole way along, she's been lucky in that respect, where we can go along and say, look, here you go. Here is the documentation, because they're very, very, you need the documentation. In order to get the supports, you need the documentation. And that's where it can be very prohibitive for lots of parents, because one, there are very few schools now that I come across who will actually fund psychological assessment. The waiting lists, if you go private, are 18 months to 24 months. In order to get the support. And that's if you go private. Then if you go through the what we call as TUSLA here, so it will be the Department of Education and stuff like that, you could be like 4 years waiting if you even get that. And that the schools will only usually give you the supports if you have that documentation. Never mind the costs now, which are anywhere between €1,500 to €4,000 just to get a psychological assessment. Like, it's so prohibitive for so many people, which reinforces the poverty. When you're poor, everything is more expensive. And I remember the first time I heard that explained, and I was like, what? When you're poor, everything is more expensive. But the person actually broke it down. So if you think about it, Jashon, right? Say your car insurance, right? If you're rich, or if you are financially secure, you can pay your car insurance in one go, right? But say I can't afford to pay my car insurance in one go, so I have to do monthly installments, and I get charged interest. You don't get charged interest. So the cost to me, because I'm poorer than you, actually works out actually more expensive for me, because I'm paying interest on top of it. And when I learned that, I was like, holy shit, like, if you have any level of poverty, now we're not talking extreme poverty necessarily, like we're just talking the general, like two couples or a couple who both work full time, they can still be living in poverty because of childcare costs and all that kind of stuff that comes with it. But when we start to view things from that perspective, we can kind of go, well, how can lots of families turn around and pay €1,500 for psychological assessment that they know will help their child, that they know will be the marker from which schools or therapists or whomever will provide support to their child? And if you can't get that, well, then your child can't get that support. Like, that is just so messed up. Like, it's a messed up system.
It really is. They talk about broken systems, and that is a clearly broken system. And even just the time frame for the diagnosis, like you said. So for our sons, we even had it was Dr. Long's friend that he practiced with for almost 30 years. It still took us 6 or 7 months to get in to see him with the referral and the business card. And even after the assessment, it took almost another 5 months to get the actual report back. Yeah, that's based off from what you said. That's one of the things that's already in the works. We will be having some of the standard assessments across the board that are out there for different diagnoses from different therapies or education. We will have those assessments on the app. Again, this is for personal use. It's not to replace a doctor or a real assessment, but it's a great tool to have to where you make that appointment. You're 3, 4, 18 months down the road. You can self-assessment, give yourself a starting point so you have something to kind of work with until that meeting. Once you have that meeting, you get the real assessment. This is where the fun comes in. Compare. How far off was the prelim assessment to the factual assessment? Combine those two, and now you're starting to build your baseline and you're starting to progress and get forward. But that gives parents a way to feel a little more comfortable that, even though I'm waiting, I do have some answers. Even though they're not, and even though they're not board certified and from an official signed off signature, it is official and close enough, and it's not dangerous information it's giving you. It's only giving you probable and safe information to use and to start implementing some of the strategies, so you're not just waiting there twiddling your thumb watching behaviors or actions or things spiral out of control until they're not catchable or until it's too hard to redirect and change that behavior or that situation.
Yeah, and that's where the power lies, I think, as well, because like we said, we're not trying to replace the assessment. We can't. Do you know what I mean? Like, you need to be working with a psychologist to get the assessment. But I actually met with a lady today who I've approached to actually come on our podcast, and she said she will, hopefully in the next few weeks, who got a diagnosis of ADHD as an adult. And she said once she got the diagnosis, it really, really helped her understand herself better, but also then she knew where to go and look for the tools that might help her live a more stress-free life. Now, not a totally stress-free life, but a more stress-free life. So it helped her. So that's what we would hope as well for people who might take our processes that we're going to implement, that it might just give them a target, like you said, while they're waiting, so that they can go and say, well, okay, we think our child has ADHD, and by going through this process, it looks like there's lots of the markers hitting there. So because we'll be giving recommendations of where to go and maybe potential techniques to support them, they can try them and see. And like, these techniques are not going to be taking medication. So you're not going to be giving your child unnecessary medication. You can try a technique and give it a few weeks. And if it doesn't work, that's okay. Because, everyone is very different. So it might be a different tool or a tweak to that tool that you need. But what we're trying to do is democratize to an extent people's own health and processes, which, like the UN Charter on the human rights, it's like we all should have access to information that is pertinent to us. Like, pretty simple, pretty straightforward by the top dogs, and yet it's not the case.
You know, Alan, where the magic comes in. So we also have our FPK University learning platform.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the magic of these two platforms together is the fact that so FPK University learning platform is tailored toward neurodiverse learners, but it's for any learners. And the reason why I really want to push that point is for any learners. You got a child, you want to get them starting to do some online learning, bring them to FPK University. What the system's going to do, it's going to provide some basic courses. It's going to provide some baseline getting into the learning state. And then from there, it's tracking your learning progress. It's tracking your right answers, your wrong answers. It's tracking your behavior of the way you, if you have like frustrations doing a course or something like that. So it has algorithms to look for frustration thresholds and things of that nature. Also, it's aware of different signs of ADHD and dyslexia based off from the way you answer questions. So as we fine tune the system and we start to gradually move ahead, you may have a child that you don't know has, let's say, dyslexia, but by the way they're answering questions on the platform and by the way they're responding to certain things, the platform can start to say, hey, wait a minute, let's go back and address this, and can start giving you signs of maybe you should try to take this assessment that we have over here in FPX to see why you keep getting these type of words wrong. So it can help self-assess a child who may not know that they're dyslexic or have ADHD, but based off from their behavior on the system, it will prompt to say, hey, maybe take a look at this. And the way the FPK platform is, parents have oversight too. So it can send a notification to the parent, hey, your child keeps struggling at this particular thing here. Why don't you check out this link over on FPX, do this assessment, and let's see if maybe there's some signs of dyslexia or ADHD here, so that maybe we can reformulate the way we deliver the education. So all those features aren't 100%, but they're all built into the system and they're being fine-tuned until we can get it to where it's just right there. But again, none of this stuff is meant to replace medical advice. It's not meant to replace doctors. It's not meant to replace the real assessments. It's there for the poor folk and the people that just need to have an answer until they get the official stuff.
Yeah.
And I say the poor folk, but I mean, I know families that's very wealthy. They can buy the country of Ireland if they want. But they still got to wait that 18 months to get the response back on their report, just like the poor folks. So
Yeah.
Don't think money gets that report back any faster.
No, I don't think so either. So
That's the beauty of FPX and FPK University. The overall future, the guiding light is a full autonomous system that goes with FPX, FPK together. It's helping the individual, it's helping families, and all of this is family-centered, and it gives us the control instead of the education departments and the therapists and the doctors. We're taking control back for you, and we're putting it in your lap, and what you do with it from here on forward is totally your prerogative, and you're driving this train. We're just here to give you a vehicle to take down the tracks.
That's exactly it. And we'll provide the fuel, we'll provide the what, I don't know what it's called, MOT, NCT, the servicing. We'll do all that. We'll give you all those little things to help you along the way, but we'll be with you the whole way. Jashon, thanks so much for sharing your story and your insights. And I think it'll resonate with a lot of people who have been through a similar trajectory in life, and that's who we're trying to help. We're trying to help those individuals, those families who can sometimes feel probably overwhelmed. I spoke to a gentleman last week whose son has autism, and the guy was tired. He was late for the meeting. He was tired, and he was like, I couldn't get my son out of the house. There was an incident just because he didn't want to go, and here I am late. And he goes, I just want to go to sleep. And it's not that he's a bad dad. I'm sure he's a phenomenal dad. It's not that his son is bad. It's just his son was having one of those mornings. And what we're just trying to do is just put that arm around those parents and go, do you know what? You're not alone. And here's some tools to try and help you, to help your children. And for me, there is no bigger purpose in this world. If you and I, Jashon, and Lisa and Tana and Alyssa can walk off this planet, hopefully in a long, long time, and go, do you know what? We've created something that has actually helped people. I'll die a happy man anyway.
I hear you. And I'd say that's a good, if you're out there and you're listening and you hear this, maybe you don't have kids, maybe you don't have someone who can use this platform, maybe you know someone who can use this platform. You're more than welcome to sponsor somebody to take this platform. And if you're somebody out there who thinks finances is going to block you from getting it, reach out to us. We have some options to get you on. We just want to get you started. Don't let finances or anything like that be the blocker of you getting started in taking control of your situation. There is fees for certain things, but we're people first. So again, if you want to sponsor somebody to the program, you can do that. If you want to sign up for yourself, you can do that. Just keep in mind that we have plenty of options for everybody. You can get on right now and start making a change.
On that note, Jashon, we're going to say good night from the Future Proof Knowledge podcast. We will be back next week. Who knows what we'll talk about next week, but it's going to be interesting anyway. Until then, look after yourselves, and we'll see you soon.
FPK, Future Proof Knowledge Podcast. Mind unlocked. With every episode we cast, real talk, real tools, wisdom on the fly. Tune in, geek out, reach for the sky.